going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be breaking down what exactly transpired last night in the first round, then have some day two targets for you guys as far as the Cincinnati Bengals go and their two selections, barring, of course, a trade. But before we get into that, name a Bengals day two target. Name a guy, name a prospect that you would like to hear Cincinnati call their name later on tonight in round 2 or round 3 of the NFL draft. Get that name for me in the comment section of today's show. All right, so we're just going to buzz through here what exactly transpired in the first round last night. I had a video coming out for you guys last night. It was a solo produced video. It was very hectic here at Chat Sports last night, but we were able to get the Shemar Stewart video out to you, but do want to spend a little bit more time talking about the first round. Cam Ward, pick number 1. That was it was only a matter of time before that was official, and then shortly once the draft got underway, that was made official. Shocker, really, right out of the gate. Cleveland moves back to 5. Jacksonville trades up, takes Travis Hunter at that number 2 overall spot, new GM in Jacksonville, and he immediately getting rid of some picks already to go get a superstar talent. Abdul Carter goes 3rd overall to the Giants. Will Campbell 4th to the Patriots. Mason Graham ends up going in that 5th slot to the Cleveland Browns. We'll see if he causes Joe Burrow and company issues for Cincinnati going forward. Ashton Jeanty 6 to the Raiders. Mbow 7. And then this really where things get interesting, I think, outside that top 7. Tate McMillan gets picked by Carolina, a guy that a lot of people had going to the Dallas Cowboys or falling down a little bit in the draft. McMillan goes to Carolina at 8. Kelvin Banks goes 9 to the New Orleans Saints. They don't take a quarterback there. And this, to me, was the first big shocker. Colston Loveland goes 10 to the Bears when Tyler Warren was still on the board. So a bit of a head-scratcher for me in that regard. But then Mykel Williams, feel like that's a bit of a reach from John Lynch and company with the Niners. Tyler Booker. Cowboys have to go guard at 12. Think they could have had a lot of other guys at that spot, but they go with a guard. Cowboys obviously love drafting offensive linemen. I thought Kenneth Grant was also a reach by the Miami Dolphins. The Colts land Tyler Warren. Incredible pick there. I think he's going to be a bona fide superstar. Jalen Walker, I think that's a great pick by the Falcons. And Walter Nolan, who a lot of people had going to Cincinnati, goes a pick before Cincinnati picks at 17, goes to the Arizona Cardinals. Then comes Cincinnati on the clock with that selection of Shemar Stewart. We'll kind of, spend a second here just kind of breaking down my thoughts. Obviously, spent a lot of time talking last night about Shemar Stewart. I wanted a safer pick. I wanted a guy that, could go out there and really contribute from the get-go for Cincinnati. Maybe Shemar Stewart can be this guy, but it puts a ton of pressure on Al Golden to go out there and really do a good job with the development of Shemar Stewart, and a lot of pressure on Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin as well. I think there was a bunch of safer picks Cincinnati could have went with, but they went with the traits guy. They went with the guy with the highest ceiling in Shemar Stewart. Let's see if it pays off or it ends up being another bust. Again, Myles Murphy kind of feels like a bust from a couple of years ago, but hopefully it works out for Cincinnati. Definitely a bold play. Gray Zabel goes right off the board after to the Seattle Seahawks. I think he very much was a target for Cincinnati. Emeka Ibuka goes to the Buccaneers. I think that's a really great fit there. Jedi Barron goes 20 to the Broncos. Derek Harmon, my prediction for Cincinnati, ends up going to Pittsburgh. So Cincinnati going to have to deal with Mason Graham and Derek Harmon within the division. Marion Hampton. Another bit of a surprise for me there. 22 to the Chargers. Matthew Golden to the Packers. That's a fun fit. Donovan Jackson goes to the Minnesota Vikings. And then the Giants trade back into the first round and get a quarterback in Jackson Dart. And the Falcons then trade up and get James Pierce Jr., a bit of a head-scratcher. And then Malachi Starks, the guy that I wanted, the guy that so many of you guys wanted, goes to the Baltimore Ravens. So 3 really great players getting picked within the AFC North Division that the Bengals are going to have to deal with. It just feels like a patented Baltimore Raven pick. Another Buckeye, Tyleek Williams, 28 to the Lions. Josh Connerly, 29 to the Commanders. Maxwell Hairston gets into the first round, 30 to Buffalo Bills. And then leave it to the Philadelphia Eagles, getting the best linebacker on the board at 31. And then the Chiefs get Ohio State offensive tackle Josh Simmons. We'll spend some time talking about some day 2 targets here in a second, but I do want to circle back to this. What is your one-word reaction to the Shemar Stewart pick? Are you all right with it? Are you ticked off? Let me know. One word for me in the comments of today's show. It is the pinned comment of today's video. So if that ad comes here on YouTube, it's totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it, get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. So we're going to do a little mock draft here for the Cincinnati's picks in the second round and the third round. Ran this through PFF. Obviously, Tate Ratledge is still available. If you guys remember, that's who I had Cincinnati taking in my final mock draft, so no reason, in my opinion, to really shift off that. I would still love to have Tate Ratledge a part of the Cincinnati Bengals football team. Again, I've said it. I think his play style fits in really nicely with the AFC North. It's a tough, gritty dude out there for the Georgia Bulldogs. Some injury concerns, missed a decent amount of time playing throughout his years. Obviously, that is a red flag, but I think he can come in, be a stud guard for you, and really do a great job of protecting Joe Burrow. Bengals have a pick in the third round as well, pick number 81. You opted not to go safety in the first round. You had two really good ones sitting there. By the way, Emmanwori still on the board out of Carolina. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But I'm going to go Lathan Ransom here in round 3. I've mocked him to Cincinnati previously. I think it really is a good fit. You need a safe pick, right, for Cincinnati, especially after the pick that you took in the first round. I think it doesn't get a ton safer than Lathan Ransom. It's a guy that's played a ton of football at a high level for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I think he's ready to come into an NFL team and contribute immediately. Is he as good as Malachi Starks or Nick Emmanwori? Absolutely not, but I think he is going to be a really, really good professional safety, and I think he can come in and really provide Cincinnati a boost in that room. I think Cincinnati needs to draft a safety at some point with one of their 5 remaining picks that they currently possess. I think Lathan Ransom would be a good fit in Al Golden's defense. We'll continue with some day 2 targets here in a second, but first, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, as today's show is presented by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch or the start of the event. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They got those last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Also have those zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats for you. Really love the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy with Game Time. And the best thing, of course, that lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, all guaranteed. Let's get into some day 2 targets here for Cincinnati to wrap up today's show. Now, these first couple of picks probably are going to be off the board by the time Cincinnati selects in the second round, but some high-profile names still available. Will Johnson, of course, many people thought he was a lock to go in the first round. He is still available, I think, definitely because of a knee concern issue when you're talking about Will Johnson, but the Bengals love their corners out of Michigan. Shoot, if he continues to slide, they might go up and snipe him. Nick Emmanwori, a guy that I really liked. I was surprised he didn't go in the first round. I get he's a safety, and there's other, positions that are, quote-unquote, a little bit more valuable, but I think he's ready to play professionally right here, right now. If he slides, or even if he continues to slide a little bit, you might even want to trade up in the second round to get your hands on a guy like Nick Emmanwori, because I think he is a fantastic player. Would love to have him in Cincinnati. Trey Amos, another corner that a lot of people thought, hey, maybe he'd go in the first round. I'm not surprised he didn't. I thought he kind of got a little bit too much buzz, a little bit too late there. It was kind of odd how that transpired there, but Amos certainly a guy that could be impactful for you in the secondary. TreVeyon Henderson, again, another guy. Could he have went in the first round? Perhaps. In a lot of ways, I like him more than Amari and Hampton. Hampton, of course, went to the Chargers in the first round. Henderson is a fun fit, but, running back, do you really need to take one early on? Probably not, but if he's available, it would be hard not to take him out of Ohio State. Benjamin Morrison as well. Of course, got the Al Golden connection with Notre Dame. I think this is a guy that if he didn't have his own injury concerns, he would have been taken in the first round as well. So this list of guys, maybe all these guys are off the board by the time Cincinnati picks in the second round, but if one of these guys happen to slide, I think the Bengals would love to have one of these 5. Another opportunity here for you guys to get involved. Their show here at Bengals Breakdown. Which side of the ball do you want Cincinnati to draft in round 2? Let me know. Type O for offense, D for defense. Obviously, Shemar Stewart, a defensive pick for Cincinnati. They need a lot more help on defense, but also could use a guard and maybe perhaps a running back as well. So let me know. Type O for offense or D for defense. A couple of more here. Xavier Watts. This kind of feels like it would be an awesome pick, right? You got that Al Golden connection. This is a guy that had, 13 interceptions throughout the past couple of seasons. Absolutely electric football player. And I think it really would quell kind of your concern or disappointment, I should say, with not landing a guy like Malachi Starks in the first round. You go Xavier Watts in the second. Be a phenomenal pick. Carson Schwesinger now kind of becomes perhaps the best linebacker available after, of course, Jalen Walker's gone and Jahad Campbell goes to Philadelphia. It's still a position you need to fill. But, Jahad Campbell, in my opinion, was really the only can't-miss guy. I'm not super high on Schwesinger, but, perhaps Cincinnati takes him in the second round. But I would be surprised. I think Cincinnati will probably address that later in the draft, if not a UDFA, something they've certainly done in the past. Or maybe they'll try to, continue to sign a veteran that perhaps is still out there on the market. Jonah Savaiinaea, offensive lineman out of Arizona, a guy that I've mocked to Cincinnati quite a bit. Kind of interesting. I feel like he's kind of like a 2.5 round kind of guy, right? And that's, of course, where Cincinnati is picking. It might just fall in an area where it's, they're picking, it's too early to take him or it's too late to take him. He's already off the board, but I think he's a good guard. Played tackle at Arizona, but he's definitely going to be an interior offensive lineman in the National Football League. Ariante Ersery, he's kind of that last guy that can really come in as an offensive lineman, I think, and really provide a big-time difference. He, of course, is more of a tackle coming out of Minnesota. Perhaps Cincinnati has interest in him. Wouldn't mind taking an offensive lineman early here in day 2. Andrew Mukuba, another safety option. I would prefer Lathan Ransom, but Mukuba is a solid player, and I think if you get him in your safety room, you feel good about that. But personally, I would lean Lathan Ransom there as far as a day 2 guy goes. Another Texas long here. A couple of more names here before we get out of here on today's show. Alfred Collins. There was a lot of people that thought maybe Cincinnati would go with an interior guy along their defensive line, but they, of course, rolled the dice with Shemar Stewart, taking edge rusher. Alfred Collins, he's a big body guy. I think he's ready to contribute at an NFL level. Mbow out of Purdue, offensive lineman there. He's gotten a lot of buzz. I think he's certainly a guy that Cincinnati will have their eyes on, whether it be in the second or third round. Another offensive lineman out of Texas, Cameron Williams, who had a lot of around, I think, one buzz a long time ago, kind of before we got close to the draft process here. It's kind of slipped down a little bit, but I think a lot of people view him as a guy that can probably be more of a developmental guy, but can eventually be a starter for you in the National Football League. Danny Stutsman is probably that next best linebacker from Schwesinger. Stutsman, of course, hails from Oklahoma University. Could be an interesting fit in Al Golden's defense. And last guy here, Kaleb Johnson, Hamilton, Ohio native. He's going to be available for you, whether it be the second or the third round, and could be interesting if Cincinnati ultimately takes the Kaleb Johnson, brings him back to the Cincinnati area. I think he's a great running back, but again, you're just kind of questioning, need and, where you sit with the rest of your roster, right? I would prefer, honestly, one of the 2 Ohio State running backs above Kaleb Johnson. Those are some prospects for you guys. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. That's youtube.com/Bengals TV. We're going to have several more videos coming at you your guys' way. Should have one after round 2 pick, round 3 pick, and then a nightcap as well. Don't know the producer situation. Maybe it's just me and you, doing it together again, doing the best we can, but we will see. Regardless, we'll have some coverage for you. So don't miss out. Hit that sub button for me right now.